I'm ready.
Me too. I'm ready.
It's happening.
All right, here we go. I have to get myself. Ugh. All right. You have me all.
Soyson.
What?
I don't know. It's from something.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to a new episode of You Got, or YGG. My name is Sophia Matthias. I am joined by my beautiful, smart, intelligent, wonderful co-host,
Carly Hill. Totally so flattered. Oh my gosh.
I try sometimes. We're here today to talk about Season 7, Episode 2 of Game of Thrones, Stormborn. Stormborn.
Yes.
Yes.
Which I got really excited about name-wise because I was hoping maybe better things would happen to our Mother of Dragons, but this is Game of Thrones, so that was already a false belief.
They always throw you curveballs, Carly, I gotta say. I mean,
know.
I always expect this episode to be what it's something, and it is never what I expect it to be.
That's fair, yeah.
And that's not always a good thing.
It's not always a good thing, but I don't know. As long as they can keep surprising us, I'm okay with it.
Yes, I agree. However, some of the surprises I don't need.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Could live without.
We disagreed on this episode.
We did.
Overall, yeah.
We did.
Because you didn't think it was that enough happened, whereas, right?
I thought it was nothing to write home about.
Okay, nothing to podcast about.
Well, I'm here, aren't I?
Well, yeah. That makes me feel so good. I guess I'm here. Guess we're doing this.
I guess I showed up.
Give me more wine.
Yes.
Yeah, I really liked the episode. To me, it's really hard to have an episode because we disagreed on the first one too, but I really liked the first episode, and so I was kind of expecting the next episode to be a little bit more of a bridge episode into whatever war is going to come next, and whatever the first big battle or face-off or even meeting, which we are going to get next episode with Jon and Dany, is going to be. Mm-hmm. So this episode I actually felt like a lot happened because it was a little predictable. I mean, we had an entire episode basically showing how great Dany's plan is. Mm-hmm. I mean, literally, you have a scene where Cersei's talking about, people of oh my gosh, not Westeros. Well, Westeros, I guess, but
King's Landing.
Yeah, I kept wanting to call it Casterly Rock, which
I mean, that's where they're from.
It's also accurate.
Fair.
Okay,
that's where they're from. Accurate.
Yes. She was talking to the people of King's Landing going, this Mother of Dragons burns people at the stake and is bringing a bunch of savages over here. Like, do you really want those people to be here? And then you cut to Dany and Tyrion, and Tyrion's saying, well, that's exactly what she's going to expect. And so you have a lot of this really nice setup for Dany, and it's showing how strong her plan is, and everything's going so great. And so I thought that it was a little bit predictable that by the end of this episode, everything was going to fall to complete crap.
Yeah, because of how high of the horse she rode in on.
Right. Or dragon.
Yes, how high
she flew in on.
Yeah, there it is.
2 times.
It was very clear that her plan was not going to work no matter how foolproof it was. It sounded really good when Tyrion pitched it to their war council. It sounded like it would work. However, you have to remember that you're fighting Euron Greyjoy.
You also have to remember in this world, nobody seems to remember that Murphy's Law is a thing. Like, as soon as they get a plan, is there no plan B? Like, okay, your whole plan right now depends on the Iron Fleet. Like, what happens
if it gets taken away? Right.
Like, let's just plan, or your dragons. So, hopefully this will be kind of a wake-up moment, and she and Tyrion might think about, well, plan B, what if we don't have the dragons? Like, what if we don't have these things that we're putting our entire plan on?
Yes.
Because they really got to strategize a little better than this is plan A, the one and only.
This is the only plan we got because it's going to work. Because, and we know, as viewers, we know that the Lannisters are preparing for this. Yeah. They have weapons that apparently can just shoot dragons right out of the sky.
Yeah, they have a Hulk.
They have, yeah.
Basically. Like, I hate that weapon.
It was so bad.
I hate it so much. It's the easiest weapon. I don't want to see Smaug and the Hobbit die. I want to, because that's what they did with Smaug and the Hobbit.
Yeah.
It's basically the same thing. It's a very fancy crossbow with a very scary arrow.
Right, and just because it could go into Balerian's skull, a dragon that has been dead for hundreds of years, that's probably been decaying over a certain amount of time, doesn't mean it can fight Drogon, Viserion, and Rhaegal, who are young, fast dragons. Right. I really think that Qyburn was sort of just sitting there, like, twiddling his thumbs, not expecting to do anything special. They have no idea what these dragons are capable of.
I think they have no idea. I also think it would have been way cooler to see the Dragonbinder, which I was so against last season. I was like, I hope that's not it. Mm-hmm. I don't like the idea of the Dragonbinder. But if you think about it, can you imagine how awesome... Because apparently in the books, and I can't take credit for this, my friend at work told me this, but apparently in the books, nobody's super clear on what the Dragonbinder does. It
does a bunch of different things, and all we know is that Euron has it and gives it to his brother to take away. And basically tells his brother, hey, you should practice on this. But we know that whoever uses it, whoever blows it, gets killed. Dies.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I think that would have been a way more interesting weapon to use. Because let's say it does control dragons, and Cersei has someone else use it, because... maybe she finds out that it kills whoever uses it. I don't know. But if she gets control of the dragons, that would be awesome. I kind of pictured this thing where maybe it only controls the dragons for a little bit, and now Cersei has 3 dragons under her control, but only for a little while, and it's an undisclosed period of time, and she has to keep... I don't know. I think it could have been way more interesting to see the one weapon that Dany has that nobody else has in the hands of her greatest enemy.
Right. And it comes back to, I believe that Euron already has the Dragonbinder.
I hope he does.
Maybe he doesn't know what it does necessarily. He doesn't know that it's utilized. Yeah. It's supposed to be utilized to kill dragons. He has no idea. I don't think that Euron is that dumb, though. I want to see it be used as well. I want to see it in action because I want to see Dany without her dragons.
Yeah, I do too.
She has only ever been the mother of dragons. Mm-hmm. I mean, she was in the first season, at the end of the first season is when she got her dragons, but... Right. She really, for all intents and purposes in the show, she has only ever been the mother of dragons. I want to see what she can do without them. Yeah. Clearly, Drogon is going to be larger than Balerion was.
Oh, yeah.
There's no question that Drogon is going to grow and grow and grow. What happens if that weapon that Qyburn has been working on with his people works and kills Drogon and kills Viserion and Rhaegal and Dany has, or if Euron controls them... I want to see what she's capable of.
I do too, because if you look at every big moment that Dany's had in every past season, it's almost always involved the dragons.
Absolutely.
I mean, in every season, and it's getting a little bit tiring. I can only take...
It's a fallback plan.
It's a fallback plan, and as much as I love her seeing... As much as I love seeing her fly in on Drogon and, do a big shock and awe campaign, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of her walking out of the flames.
Been there, done that.
I'm sick... Exactly. So many times. We get it. You have dragons. Let's see what you can do. Let's see your strategy.
Who is Dany the Conqueror?
Exactly.
Who is Daenerys Targaryen?
Exactly.
Queen of the Andals. Who is she? I want to see what she's capable... Literally, she has 17 names. I want to see if she can actually bear the mantle of those 17 names.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, yes. But I think that I think that Daenerys is really starting to become the leader that we all want her to see after this episode, after seeing how she dealt with Varys, after seeing how she dealt with Olenna Tyrell, Ilaria Sand. She kept those people on their feet. On Reddit and, on the internet, people were kind of upset with the way that Dany treated Varys. I think that she was completely in the right.
I agree.
Varys is untrustworthy. As you can't trust him as far as you can throw him, right?
No.
He did issue the hit on Daenerys in the first season.
Exactly.
That was him. So, of course she doesn't trust him.
She'd be a dumb conqueror or ruler either way to trust him at all. I mean, she has no reason to. And one thing I really liked actually in that scene is when Lady Tyrell says, you're not a sheep, you're a dragon, be a dragon. And I think that kind of does tie back to, we've seen her rely on her dragons, we haven't really seen her be a dragon. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we've seen her getting there, but she needs to fully embrace that. She needs to be a dragon and
by herself.
Which scares me a little because she has the Mad King's blood in her. I mean, she could go a little too full. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She could go a little too, full
Aerys
metal
Targaryen.
jacket, Aerys Targaryen. on everyone, but at the same time, like, I think Lady Tyrell has a point.
I think there are two sides to what Lady Tyrell is saying. On one end, yes, I agree that Dany needs to wake up and prove that she is powerful without her dragons. She needs to be the dragon. She doesn't need to rely on her dragons. Mm-hmm. On the other side, I think that Olenna Tyrell is seeing red. I do not think that she has anything but vengeance in her mind.
That's true.
She has lost her entire family to Cersei. Her entire family was murdered, blown up by Cersei. I do not think that Olenna Tyrell is feeding Daenerys necessarily. She's doing what she wants Daenerys to exact vengeance. She wants to see King's Landing razed.
She wants to see
ground.
King's Landing in flames.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. So
well, I mean, that is true.
The idea that she wants Daenerys to be a dragon on some level freaks me out, because it's like, does she want Daenerys just to burn King's Landing and all of its inhabitants to the ground?
I agree. And I mean, I will say that I feel like she's always been calculating as well. Yes. So I feel like she can be as level-headed as you can be in the situation.
Yeah. However, she now has lost her grandchildren, her son, all of the Tyrells, basically. She's not about...
She just wants to see it crumble. Yeah, that's a good point.
I would say listening to Olenna Tyrell right now would not be in Daenerys' best interest.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. I think I just really liked the line.
I love the line, and all women should live by that line.
Oh, okay.
Hands down.
We're gonna recite. I've met many clever men, and I've outlived them all because I ignored them.
Yes, that is the line all women need to live by.
Exactly, I agree.
Live by those lines.
Anyone who's fallen in love with a crappy person can live by that and should, and get it tattooed on your body.
Anybody who's spent too much time with a crappy person.
Yes. Yeah. Those are that's our words of wisdom for this week.
Listen to Olenna Tyrell, but don't always listen to her.
But maybe with caution.
Yes, proceed with caution when taking Olenna Tyrell's ideas and making them reality. Yes. I also...
Don't burn your exes.
Don't...
Yeah. Please don't do that.
Basically, don't burn your exes. I also want to say I really enjoyed Varys' line, incompetence should not be rewarded with blind loyalty. As long as I have eyes, I'll use them.
Yes.
I think that Varys acting as... a mouthpiece for the people that cannot speak for themselves, to have a character come out and say, I represent this cast, I represent these people, and to have them say that to a person that is a potential ruler of the Seven Kingdoms was really important, because Daenerys has not thought about it. Jon has not thought about the people. Like, on that small scale, on, like, they're living their daily lives and have to survive this war.
Yeah.
Varys is their only ally.
I agree, but at the same time, I saw that line as actually appealing to what Dany was before she became the conqueror she is now. Because the conquering she's done so far, I feel like she's very much made a case for I am the queen of the people. I liked it because I felt like it was appealing to Dany, and it was appealing to what kind of she has built herself up to stand for. I don't know if she truly stands for it, but it's what she's preached to everybody. Mm-hmm. At that same rate, it's hard to trust it. Because, like, I do trust it. I do trust that Varys, for everything he says and for all the lack of trust that, we have for him, I feel like he very much is of the people. But at the same time, I know he's also trying to appeal to Dany to stay on that team.
Well, he needs to get on Dany's side.
But
I think that he is on her good side now. I think that by him saying, I am here for the people, I represent the people, Dany can allow him to live. She does not see him as a threat.
That's what scares me.
And I agree. But she did say, I'll burn you alive if you betray me.
Oh, yeah, and I believe her.
And I believe her, but I also worry that she is too trusting.
Yeah.
I mean, she allowed Melisandre into her home.
Nobody checked that. She just walked up and they were like, just open the door.
Oh, I was like, red priests are welcome here. I really believe in Azor Ahai. It's like, yeah, but Melisandre. And with Jon and Davos now en route to Dragonstone, I have a feeling it's kind of gonna all blow up in Melisandre's face a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be great to watch.
Oh,
but
it's gonna be nice.
I think Dany does need to be a little bit more wary about who she trusts and who she puts her trust into. I think the Tyrells will falter. I think that the Sand Snakes already have. We've lost two of them, and now Ilaria Sand and Tyene have been taken hostage. She's lost Yara. Daenerys is going to have to be a lot more strategic going forward about where she chooses to fly her dragons. With Jon, she's going to have to not bend the knee, but Jon is not going to bend the knee to her.
No.
So she's going to have to learn how to coexist.
That's why Bran needs to get that information to them so fast. Like, it's driving...
He's on his way.
Here's the thing. I know it's not information that can be delivered by Raven. I know that. Like, that's fine. But at the same time, in this one episode, we had 2 pieces of information that were delivered by Raven.
Yep.
And Bran is still marching. And it's like, oh my god, just
send a Raven.
I don't care. Like, just send a Raven, please.
Someone needs to know that Bran is on his way. Because now Arya is on her way to Winterfell, and Jon is not there.
No.
Yeah.
No, she's arriving at a good time, though, because I think Jon screwed himself by what he did to Littlefinger. I'm really worried about that.
Oh.
That's really concerning because, and I think Jon was calm and cool as long as he could have been, but as soon as that happened with Littlefinger, I at first was super excited, and then kind of thought about it and was like, something's gonna happen.
You mean when he choked out Littlefinger? Yeah. I think that this is not the first time Peter Baelish has been choked out by a Stark. And and the last Stark that choked him out, he killed.
Yeah.
I also don't think that Littlefinger has the balls to do anything right now.
Oh, I think he does.
And I'm not trying to underestimate him. I don't think that we should underestimate Peter Baelish. I think that he is one of the most capable, slimy characters in Game of Thrones. I really just want someone to drive a knife through his heart, and I almost wonder if that's what Arya is going to do in the next episode.
That's what I'm kind of hoping for, yeah.
Because if you think that Jon messed up...
With Peter Baelish, like, that is one thing where I get a bad vibe. I'm just getting a bad vibe.
I agree.
That's all
He's gross.
He's gross. I don't know. I honestly couldn't say. I think maybe he's going to try to sway her in her decision making.
But he can't. I don't think that she'll ever listen to him.
I mean, she won't. That's the thing. But that concerns me too. Like, I think he's just gonna try to throw a wrench in things.
Somehow Arya ends up with the knife that was used to try and kill Bran in the first season that Catelyn Stark prevents from happening. Somehow she ends up with that. I don't know where that knife is right now. I'm pretty sure it's with Littlefinger. So if it's with Littlefinger and somehow Arya gets it.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is it's very good timing that Jon kind of screwed it. Because I still think either way Jon screwed himself a little bit. He screwed,
Yeah, he does tend to act out
out of feelings.
Yes, he does.
He feels so much.
He feels so much.
So much. But, so I don't think it's not like it's not a dire thing for Jon. It's not like it's going to, I don't think it's going to be a long-term threat, but I think it's going to be kind of the Euron of that area where it's just going to throw a wrench in things for a while. And maybe slow things up. But either way, it's good timing for it to happen because Arya is on her way.
Yes.
And if anybody's going to take out Baelish, it's going to be her.
I agree.
It is kind of like the Aaron Burr of the show because Aaron Burr, one thing that Hamilton in the musical, not in history, but in the musical, said is that Burr stands for nothing. Yes. And I feel like Peter Baelish is kind of that way. He doesn't really stand for anything. Like, he stands for himself.
He wants to be on the winning team in a way that Varys doesn't. Varys very clearly has a meaning and a cause.
Yes.
To be there, to be in the fight. Why Peter Baelish is still around, we have no idea.
That's why I'm worried about him now, is because I feel like he's going to he hasn't done anything in a while. He's just been lurking like a shadow, and I'm like, what are you going to do next? So maybe they're just going to off him. Maybe it's time for...
I'm ready.
I'm all right with it. He's like a little silverfish.
It's not soon enough, in my opinion, honestly. He's been around for way too long.
I'm sick of him.
He said, when he started talking about Catelyn, I wanted to punch the TV. And then when he told Jon, I love Sansa in the way that I loved Catelyn, I was like, when Jon reacted in that way, I was so grateful. No one has ever really stopped Peter from talking about the Stark women in that way before because he doesn't talk about it very often. And so he has to know that's not okay.
Well, and that's the thing. I'm really, really happy it happened. Like, I still think that Jon kind of... Jon made a very feeling-based choice.
He did.
But at the same time, like, I was
Protect
cheering.
your sisters. Protect your sisters.
Protect your family.
Yeah.
And that's very Tully, actually.
It is very Tully.
Which is kind of fitting. They've been building for a while that I feel like at Sansa's hand, maybe because of Arya, Baelish is gonna die because they've really been.
Sansa hasn't taken blood yet.
Sansa hasn't taken blood yet. She's got. I feel like even if it's Arya wielding whatever knife or whatever weapon is used to kill Peter Baelish, it's gonna be by Sansa's request. I think she needs that.
Yes.
And also they've really been pushing the I love Sansa because she reminds me of Catelyn. They've been pushing that for such a long time, and it is so incredibly creepy.
I gag every single time I hear it.
It's the worst. Like it's the one of the very few things I never ship. Like I will never ship it, and I ship a lot of things. I ship weird things, and I will not ship that.
Ugh, I agree.
But
Thank
I
God.
won't ship that.
One more thing I wanted to talk about quickly was the consensual romantic sex scene that happened, which I thought was really well done.
It was really well done. Yes.
Yes. It was between Missandei and Grey Worm. And we've all sort of been... This was a romance that is not in the books at all. This is completely written by them. Grey Worm has no interest. Missandei is a 12-year-old in the books. So it really can't be done. What I'll say is that this is the first consensual romance sex scene depicted on Game of Thrones since April of 2013.
Oh my God.
It was last featured was Jon and Ygritte, I'm pretty sure.
That was so long ago.
So this is the fact that it's been this long, and that what we've seen since then has been rape scenes, basically, is sort of really disheartening to me. The writer of this episode, Brian Cogman, his claim to fame was Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken.
Oh.
Which is my least favorite episode of Game of Thrones of all time.
Yeah.
It's the episode where the sand snakes are introduced, basically. What I'll say, though, is I thought it was sort of beautiful how innocent they made Grey Worm seem.
Yeah.
It was very interesting to see a woman take the lead, to have her ask and to have it be very consensual again. I just was appreciative. Did it go on too long? Maybe. But, like, most scenes in Game of Thrones do, so...
And they're made up of way worse things.
Right, exactly. So and him talking about how his only fear, he's never had fear before.
It was a gorgeous scene.
It was beautiful to me. I had no issues with it. A lot of people were saying, well, he's an Unsullied. He's not supposed to have fear at all. It's like, no, but he's human.
Right.
Actually, at the end of the day, he's a human being.
Right, exactly. Just because you're Unsullied doesn't immediately make you... It's kind of like Theon. Like, just because Theon is now back with his family or, like, is now away from being Reek, it doesn't mean he's officially Theon again. Right. It doesn't mean he's officially okay.
Right, exactly. In an episode that had a lot of ups and downs, that was the highlight for me.
It was beautiful.
Yes.
Yes.
So, Melisandre brings up Azor Ahai. Missandei says...
The translation... means that their translation doesn't specify a gender.
Exactly.
Which is insane.
And we all knew that the prince that was promised could potentially be a woman. There's always been that option. The question is whether or not it's going to be Dany and Jon mixed. I still don't necessarily think it's going to be a woman. I think it's a little bit of a red herring. They made it a little bit too easy. It's not going to be Dany.
I think it might be Dany and Jon.
Do you think they're just going to do it straight up?
I think they might. I honestly, I don't know if I put enough faith in them to throw in that kind of wrench, which is a phrase I've been using a lot in this episode. Well, I don't really know why.
I mean, they can throw a wrench in the cog by making it not Jon and Dany. But
that's what I'm hoping for, but I think that they're going to make it Jon and Dany. The easiest thing that they could do was make it a joint thing, make it Jon and Dany. One of the most interesting theories that I read was actually it's Theon. Because Theon has had his parts removed. Yes.
Whether or not this is true, whether or not Theon sees himself as a man could be called into question. Especially after his recent reactions to everything that went down in the episode, to Euron and having Yara at knife point and him sort of running away. It begs the question whether or not Theon sees himself as a man anymore. And if that's the case, perhaps he could actually be Azor. I mean, he was in saltwater. He was born in salt. That was a theory that I saw that could be that has potential.
I think it does. I think it has potential. I don't know if I questioning whether he's a man or not anymore. I think his reaction to what was going on with Yara. First of all, I will also say I think there's two sides of his reaction to what was happening with Yara. Mm-hmm. I think one side of it is it was a PTSD reaction.
Absolutely.
He just saw a ton of people being tortured.
And he has been tortured before. He knows exactly how this ends.
Exactly. Well, he knows how it ends, but also, like, that would bring back so much. Like, psych major coming through, but, like, that would bring back so much that you can't expect him to just be like, I'm Theon again. Like, and this, I will say, this is, my friend brought this up this morning, too, so this isn't purely me, like, giving credit where credit is due, but at the same time, like, it was a PTSD reaction. I will also say, too, I don't think, because I heard a lot of he's a coward thrown around. I even threw it around last night.
I disagree.
I don't think he's a coward. I also think it was a little bit of strategy. If he had moved closer to Euron and Yara, Euron would have sliced Yara's throat.
Absolutely.
I think it was a little bit strategic.
Now Yara is alive. Whether or not it's a good thing, she is alive.
And Theon can make his way back to Dragonstone. Maybe.
Will he?
He's going to find Gendry, and Gendry's going to take him there. Gendry's still rowing.
Gendry and his huge arms. His
Take
giant
my
arms.
hand.
Come. The Hulk basically leans out of the boat.
He doesn't use rows anymore. He just uses his hands
as paddles. Yeah. Theon having that reaction was the most true that they could have painted his character.
I agree.
Had he stood up and fought, I don't think that would have been true to Theon. Theon is not brave.
No.
He is brave because of the women around him, the people that are surrounded by, that he surrounds himself with. That is why he is brave. He was brave because Sansa gave him the heart. He was brave because Yara saw something in him.
Yeah.
Yara looking at him like she's about to die. He's not going to be able to power through his PTSD. He was totally frozen. He couldn't do anything. And I pitied him, and I felt for him. And I completely think that was totally in character for him to run away.
I agree. Oh, I completely agree.
And whether or not it was strategic, I have no idea. Mm-hmm. But I still think that was the right call on his part.
I agree. I do. I think it's one of those scenes where the first time you watch it, you have that split second of, come on, Theon, like, are you serious?
After everything you've been through, she's been here for you.
Right, but on the other side of things, after everything
look at what you've been through.
Yeah.
Look at what you could see him becoming Reek again.
Exactly,
in that moment.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's really poignant.
Oh, yeah. I mean, oh, God. Oh, even just hearing Reek again.
It kind of makes you sad. It makes you really sad. So I hope that Theon will come out of this Theon again. Right
I do too.
Now, there's sort of a question of whether or not he will be able to.
And I wonder if this moment wasn't completely integral to that, because I think he's going to look at this moment and go, what did I do?
Yes.
Like, and again, like, I still personally believe that it was the right choice in the sense that had he moved forward and tried to fight, Yara would have died.
Absolutely.
Yara would have been killed. So
would he have.
Oh, yeah. They both would have died really fast.
They both would have died.
So I think whether or not he meant to, it was the right choice. But at the same time, I think this is going to be a moment where he can look back and go, okay, I'm still not okay. Let's work on this. Like, yes. Which sounds a little bit like millennial, like, let's all work on ourselves.
Let's work on ourselves. Let's look introspective.
Essential oils. Get that frankincense going and just kind of reflect on who you are.
Yes.
But yes. I think it was an important moment because it would have been unrealistic if this was the moment where he became Theon fully and came into his own.
I think it would have been a lot more campy, a lot more of what we would expect, but this is Game of Thrones that we're talking about. Theon needed to become Reek in that moment, and he needed to run away. It was expected. I don't think he could have done anything else.
It was real.
I totally agree. Good job.
Good job.
Game of Thrones. Good job playing up that PTSD and not shying away from it.
You got it, Got.
That was really you got it, Got.
Oh!
Boom. Let's talk about King's Landing and sort of what goes on there a little bit, because some things happen. Not much.
Not just enough. It was like just enough to
keep me interested.
Enough to remind us that things are happening there.
Yes. Yeah. So basically what happens in King's Landing, Cersei calls upon the Tarleys to come. The Randall Tarley, Sam's father, shows up, basically decked out in armor. Sort of, and I could tell he was prepared to have to fight his way out. I think that he went in thinking he was gonna get red weddinged, which is why he was so sort of he had his walls up when Jaime came and talked to him. Randall shot him down. Which I initially was like, wow, I'm proud of you for that. But really, I think it's him just being a savvy leader.
I agree. And one thing we talked about, too, is just how well Cersei and Jaime talk, basically, and can convince anyone.
Honey.
Wow.
Like, honey, they have learned from their father.
Oh, yeah.
They know exactly what to say. What did Jamie basically tells Randall Tarley that he'll be the warden of the South.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all he needs. And Randall's like, I mean, okay. If you need, yep, all right, I guess. Why not?
I'll take it.
Sure. And I think that that's really impressive.
Yeah.
Because we know that Cersei can talk the talk. It's a question of whether or not Jamie can.
Or if he's still willing to.
Right, and to see that it's exactly that. It's to see if he's still willing to bring in power for his sister.
Yeah.
And he is.
Yeah,
and he got it.
Which makes me wonder. I mean, like, I've been looking forward to his character kind of coming to this moment of, I cannot be a part of this woman anymore. Like, I need to break the ties right now.
And I think we'll get there.
I think we will. Now I mean, it makes sense that we're not there yet, but just thinking about it.
We all knew that the Tarleys were going to join forces with the Lannisters, but the fact that he put up a little bit of a fight, that he didn't just bend the knee immediately.
Right.
I think that says something about him. I also think that says something about Sam, which we can really sort of switch tacks to. I don't think there's that much more to say about King's Landing. I think we're going to get into it a lot. Clearly, Casterly Rock is going to be attacked in the next episode, so we're going to get a lot more Lannister action.
Right.
But I think we can switch to Sam, because
I think Sam has had some of the greatest character development of any character in the show, because he is now in his element. He's in, this library and, like, surrounded by knowledge, and all he wants to do is be able to use it.
Yep.
And this man who was too afraid at the wall to, like, break rules or take risks is
look
now...
Look at him
go! He's breaking into the restricted section of Hogwarts Library, and it's amazing.
He has already talked to Professor Slughorn, man. He
did
knows what he has to do.
He does. He knows what he has to do, and I kind of love it. I kind of love seeing him in this element where he can completely shatter all of these rules around him to actually work towards the goal he's trying to work toward. He's trying to help Jon with, I guess. But, like, it's awesome. Like, Sam has grown so much. I mean, if you remember him at the wall, I mean, that wasn't his element
a bumbling buffoon. Absolutely. And Jon saw something in him and sort of helped him through that, and now Sam wants to repay that.
Yeah.
I think that Jon has had the most poignant hero's journey of the whole show. I think that he's going to be the only one that survives. The theory...
He's very Joseph Campbell.
He is very Joseph Campbell. The theory is that that Sam is actually telling the story of Game of Thrones. That when Game of Thrones ends, the last episode will be Sam sort of relaying the beginning. And they sort of laid the groundwork with that, with Archmaester Marwyn explaining to Sam that he's writing the story of Robert Baratheon I, and Sam goes, that title, it's not very poetic, is it? The whole theory is that maybe the title, A Game of Thrones or A Song of Ice and Fire, is what Sam gives it at the end, and it's all going to come back on itself. And I think that that's why Sam is the most important character in this show, besides Bran.
But I was going to say.
Besides Bran, because
the two storytellers. One of them knows everything's going to happen, the other is recording everything that's happening, so that would make sense. Oh, they should write a book together.
Maybe they will.
I really hope they... Sam is like the new pope. Because, like, the new pope is
like
he's just changing rules and, like, coming in.
Every which way.
Yep. Every which way. And Sam is like, this is how it's been done for a while, and let's just not.
I'm continually impressed by the choices that Sam makes. He decided on his own that he is going to cure Jorah. We got another gratuitous surgery scene where Sam basically removes all of the grayscale from Jorah's. Just even one bit, one
just
pad.
The left peck.
Just the left peck. He removes the left peck covered in grayscale and applies basically inside this salve, and then it cuts to someone eating, and it was one of the most excellent edits in this episode. The quick cuts were spot on.
Even in the previous episode, they've ruined food for me. Like,
absolutely.
I've not been hungry in like 3 days.
They were like, you thought Game of Thrones was going easy on you for a few seasons? No. Let's bring it all back.
Watchers. Yeah.
Dear watchers.
Dear watchers.
What did you expect?
Did you want your slop tonight? Because you will not be eating it.
Yep.
You won't want to.
You won't want to eat later.
It was... Oh my God.
But I have to say, I think that he is going to heal Jorah. I think that Jorah will return to Dragonstone being completely healed from grayscale, because that's who Sam is. I believe in Sam Tarly.
I really like seeing Sam's character arc right now because I feel like it's very representative of where we are in this show. Not Theon. Tyrion has a line in the first season and first book where I believe where he says he has a soft spot for cripples and bastards and broken things. And we're getting a lot of flashbacks and throwbacks to the first season in this current season, which is fitting and nice, and it's a nice callback. But at the same time, if you look at who has risen, and even if you look at Lady Tyrell's line of she's known a lot of clever men and has outlived them all because she has ignored them, the people we kind of expected to be growing the most in this season, minus Jon and Dany, have kind of fallen. I mean, like, Robb fell, and he was supposed to be the king of the North. Everybody was rooting for him.
Like, in the show overall, the people that we put our eggs in their baskets, right?
Right.
Stannis, Robb, Robert Baratheon,
exactly.
all of these people have fallen.
And the people who have survived are the cripples and the bastards and broken things.
Ooh!
Which,
that's beautiful.
But I think that's really cool. I think it's come very full circle, and I really like seeing that happening in the season. And it's, I don't know, it's nice. And I mean, and another callback too to Tyrion. One of Tyrion's earlier lines is when he looks at Jon and he says, in the first season, the first episode, and he says, every dwarf is a bastard in his father's eyes.
Yes. It's what allows Jon to say, Tyrion, I trust this dude. And even Sansa, and then Sansa then jumps to his aid and says, Tyrion is a good man. He wouldn't hurt me. We can trust him.
Exactly.
And yeah, I totally, wholeheartedly agree that the show is a self-fulfilling prophecy on some level. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of beautiful to see it play out in this way, to see the cripples, bastards, and broken things be on the top.
The underdogs rising up.
Tyrion, he's a cripple, he's a bastard. Jon is a bastard. Daenerys is broken.
Cersei
is broken.
Cersei's super broken. Sam has not been any, like, I mean,
he's a bastard in his father's eyes for all intents and purposes.
He's a bastard, and also just like, well, yeah, I mean, he's a bastard, and also we've only ever seen him be weak, and now he's
look at him now,
possibly one of the strongest assets Jon has.
Well, and now Jon knows, and he sent a raven to Jon, and now Jon knows exactly what Sam needs to tell him. Sam is getting things done. He says Jon needs to know this, and Jon knows it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another throwback we have to the first season that was kind of a little more subtle was actually with Arya and Nymeria. Because not only does Nymeria come back into the scene, but there's a very, very... They talked about this inside the episode after this episode.
Yes.
But when Arya looks at Nymeria and says, that isn't you. Throwback to season 1, when she and Ned are actually talking, and Ned expresses these dreams of, I just wish you would be like your sister and dress up in these gowns. And Arya says, that isn't me. And I think that's a really, really nice throwback and representation of who Arya is now.
I agree.
Because I think she still does have that loyalty and love for them. She's not fully a faceless woman or man or faceless person. She's still very much a Stark. But she's changed a lot. I mean, they all have. But that line was really nice because it was a nice reflection on she's going back to the North, but we can't expect this to be the same Arya, and neither can Sansa, and neither can Jon, and neither can Bran.
Yeah, and I would almost extend that further back to when, she sees Hot Pie for the first time in years. She doesn't have a warm reaction to him, and I know that a lot of people were butthurt about that she didn't give him this open arms. I think that was on some level to protect him.
I agree.
On another level, to protect herself. Mm-hmm. Arya is not the same person that we knew. She's not Ari anymore. She is gone through so many interpretations of who Arya Stark is, and has finally landed on she needs to be home. She needs to be with her family. And so to see Nymeria, to have that experience, and to then for Nymeria to look at her, to acknowledge that she recognizes her, and to turn around and walk away, it's sort of telling Arya what she needs to do, but Arya's not going to do it.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Nymeria is going to show up again, save Arya in some way with her pack of wolves. I don't know. I almost think that that's it.
I don't think so. I think that Nymeria showed up for the specific purpose of Arya coming face to face with who she was.
Yes.
A very, very clear metaphor for who she was.
And who she is.
And who she is.
And how Nymeria is now going away and turning away from, I'm going home to Winterfell, I'm going back. Arya is now not doing that. Right. Nymeria has been Arya up and through this entire experience, and now they're finally splitting off.
It's who she was very literally walking away from her.
Yes.
And it was, I mean, when you look at it like that, it was a little bit of an on-the-nose scene, but I think that's okay. I think it was
what
important.
we needed to see. I think it's what a lot of viewers... I think it's what she needed to see, too. And Arya needed to realize that maybe she needs to go home, but it's not where she belongs. Yeah. She needs so badly to be reunited. And she doesn't even know that Sansa's there. Yeah, she has no idea. She thinks that the Boltons were in charge, and I guess she didn't know that Ramsay Bolton was married to Sansa. I don't know. She either knew, because we were talking about this earlier, she either knew or no, she either didn't know or she maybe knew, but I mean, if you, again, like, we're having a lot of throwbacks to season 1 and when the show first started, and she and Sansa were not friendly. No, they were not good friends. They were not braiding each other's hair. Lady was killed because of Arya. Lady was killed because of Arya, and they also are very different people, and, like, that was so reflected in the first season. Yes. Like, they were so, so different. And, I mean, even Ned saying, like, I wish you could be more like your sister and dress up in gowns, and Arya saying, that is so not me. So, I mean, she maybe could have known, and Jon was just more of a draw for her, because she and Jon really got along. I mean, yes, Jon was the reunion I want to see. That was her person. Agreed. That's the reunion we all want to see, and that they won't give us until the end of the season. I know. I think that Sansa and Arya need each other and need to see each other more than they realize. I think that they have become more similar. I completely agree. And now that they have been as far apart and gone on their specific journeys, they have both been through so much. They are different. They are the same pair of eyes, but different eyes, right? Sansa has experienced the game. She knows what it's like to do the politics of this. Arya is a war machine. Yeah. And so together, perhaps, they can rule Winterfell. I think the women should be the queens of the North. I agree. Whether or not they do that is questionable. Whether or not all of them survive is questionable. We have no idea what's going to happen. They would actually rule really well together, because I think the biggest difference between them when they were young is that Sansa was very, very feminine and girly and kind of a whiny. She was super whiny. Sansa was the eldest daughter of a high family. Of course she was the way that she was. So, you can't blame her for that. I don't blame her. I just didn't like her. I just remember how much I didn't like her. And now she and Arya, I mean, they definitely have a lot more in common, because they're both ruthless now. Yes. I mean, Sansa hasn't shown it yet, really, but you can tell. I mean, if it's going to come to push or shove, she's going to shove. Yes, Sansa will shove. She has no fear. And so will Arya. And so will Arya. So I think their reunion will happen in the next episode. Arya is closer to Winterfell than Jon is to Dragonstone. True. Yeah. So if it plays out the way that it should play out, we should be able to see some more Starks being reunited. And Bran should just be slowly but surely making his way down. Bran is pulling a Gendry, and I don't like it. I don't like it either. He was not in this episode, and I was very displeased. It's not okay. That is not okay, and I'm still not okay with where Gendry is, because he's just disappeared. Like, the earth is actually flat in this show, and he is just falling right off. Gendry fell off, as did Brandon. But let us move on to the roughest part of the episode for me. I don't know how you felt about it. We haven't actually talked about it. Let's talk about the naval battle. Okay. So basically, Dany and Tyrion command Yara and Ilaria Sand to run King's Landing, right? Yes. They are like, go take your fleet and shore up on King's Landing and decimate it. Does not work out. Euron Greyjoy shows up halfway through the battle, screams his way into the scene, and basically rips Yara's fleet apart with his axe. Very fast. Actually, to me, it was bringing back a lot of memories of the first time we see Wildfire. Yeah. It really did, in the worst ways, reminded me of the episode Blackwater. Because it takes place in Blackwater Bay physically, but it sort of takes the worst aspects of Blackwater itself, because that is still one of the best episodes that Game of Thrones has ever done. Yeah. It's the season 2, episode 9, the episode where Stannis, may he rest in peace, basically marches on King's Landing, or attempts to, but Tyrion is waiting to strike him down and say, no. It's awesome. Oh, it's fantastic. This episode could not hold a candle to it. No. There is a greenlit candle. I'm sorry. It was just sad. It felt like I was watching Pirates of the Caribbean. I was expecting Jack Sparrow to show up at any point. Well, because it looks like Euron Greyjoy is an extra from that. I can't get over that. But he looks ridiculous. So I will say, because this is another thing we disagreed on, is that
you didn't like this battle, and I can't say I liked it. Like, I wasn't a fan of this battle. I don't like Euron. He just makes me mad. I don't, and not in the way that like a justified villain does.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't like seeing him. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I have nothing invested in seeing him do anything as a villain.
And they haven't really given you cause.
No, they haven't.
To like him
No.
or to root for him in any way.
His purpose to me, he seems very much like, and people will probably disagree with me on this, he seems very much like Negan seemed to me in The Walking Dead, which was, we've seen so much up until this point.
Yeah.
For me,
what can you do?
What can you do that we haven't seen? So,
well,
like, Euron to me,
Negan does some stuff.
I mean,
arguably. And I would say Euron does some stuff. He kills 2 of the Sand Snakes.
He's an inconvenience who, to me, has only appeared as a plot device to make things difficult for Dany right now.
I agree.
Which drives me crazy.
I need more from him.
I need
him
more.
to prove that he is a villain and not just a man that cackles on his ship and kills a bunch of people.
Like a wild man.
I didn't understand it. So in the books, Euron is evil. He is conniving, and he knows exactly what he is capable of. There was actually a really interesting nod in the show where you see Euron's crew cutting out all of the tongues of the men that survived.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
So basically, anybody that Euron spares during his pirate raids and has taken from other crews, he takes their tongues so that they can't speak, communicate with each other, talk back, or mutiny against him. He left a lot of tongueless men of mute behind because that was what he did in battle. And so it was really interesting. It was quite a nod to book readers to see him cut out the tongues of all of the survivors. And it probably looked like pointless torture, but he actually does do this in the books as well.
That makes him so much cooler because right now he seems like the uncle who pulls up in an RV for Christmas vacation.
Yeah.
Like, that's
kids, let's go!
Yeah, just like, I'm a metal plate man. Well, like, he just seems like a crazy dude.
So my question is this, Carly.
Yes.
Do you want to hear some history on Euron Greyjoy?
I would love to, Sophia.
Because I could give you a little bit of history on that. I'm gonna pull
Let's
a little
hear,
bit.
Let's hear his story. I'm sorry. Please cut that out.
I'm not cutting that out. That is staying in so people know what I have to deal with on a regular basis.
I'm not sorry.
Euron Greyjoy is the eldest of the recently deceased Balon Greyjoy's 6 younger brothers. The only one of note in the show is the priest Aeron Damphair, who has been featured a few times, but they've chosen to leave the point of view character Victarion out of the show entirely. He's actually the way that you see Euron act. It's through his eyes that you understand who Euron is in the books. There's an homage to Victarion in the axe that Euron wields during the naval battle. Actually, it's the same axe that Victarion is said to have wielded in the book. Back to Euron, however, he's described to be strikingly handsome and wildly unpredictable, self-titled Stormbringer of sorts. He's also, as it follows, the most feared pirate currently alive in Westeros. The question is, how did he become such? Well, after the Battle of Mander, in which Quellan Greyjoy aided Robert in his rebellion against Aerys Targaryen, convinced by his sons Balon, Victarion, and Euron to do so, else he'd lose the chance to gain gold and opportunities of a lifetime. Alas, Lord Quellan was slain, and Balon stepped up as leader, but instead of just being Lord of the Iron Islands, he decided to go back to the old ways and crowned himself King of the Iron Islands. This was not cool because there already was a king, Robert, so basically this time was crowned as the Greyjoy Rebellion, which failed. This is actually talked about in the first episode, Dragonstone, when Euron tells about how he went to burn the Lannister ships at Lannisport. This is when also Theon... So the Greyjoys lost their rebellion, and this is when Theon was also given over to Ned Stark as a hostage and a ward, in a sign of good faith, almost. Euron is banished from Pike soon after for raping the salt wife of Victarion, his brother. Balon tells Euron that he is never to return to the Iron Islands as long as he is king, and Euron takes his ship Silence and basically raves, pillages, and plunders wherever he goes, inciting violence and doom. It's at this point he somehow obtains the Dragonbinder in the books. Whether or not he has it in the show, we don't know. What it's all leading up to, though, what I'm trying to say is Euron himself has said that he has conquered the storm, that he is, for all intents and purposes, the Stormbringer. He says this right before he murders his brother Balon. Euron is the only captain known to have conquered the seas. This brings me to my theory that this episode, which was called Stormborn, was not necessarily about Daenerys, who is Daenerys Stormborn Targaryen, but instead was actually about Euron Greyjoy. He is the storm. He is the one to watch out for. It also really makes me think that the gods are way more important than we have been letting them on. Clearly, R'hllor has shown his strength. We know what he's capable of. The Drown God, however, we haven't really seen yet.
Oh.
We've seen him through Aeron Damphair, but basically my theory is that the Drown God is speaking through Euron. There's a storm while Dany and Tyrion are having their conversation about where to send their troops. Mm-hmm. Euron is the storm, baby. Oh, he can hear everything. He knows everything. He has a connection with the drowned god. And if there is a war on the sea, you can't beat him. He is basically the be-all. I use this term a lot, but he is like the be-all, end-all villain for the sea. So that Cersei has him, and that the drowned god is speaking through him.
So, they need to make him less like a hipster who's waiting for a My Chemical Romance concert. They need to make him that.
Yes.
Like, if they okay.
I agree. They have not done a good enough job with him.
No, they haven't, because, like, that sounds like an amazing and terrifying character. I would like to see that. Like, that would be amazing. The way that they've painted him is not that way.
No. And I think my problem is that they took out Victarion. He's the whipping boy of Euron. He does everything that Euron tells him to do.
Oh my god.
And it's a lot more effective, I would
say.
I would say. And so the fact that you don't have... They're trying to do it through Theon. They're trying, and Yara, they're trying to make him seem like the ultimate villain through them.
I don't even think they're doing a good job there, though.
I don't think so either.
They kind of say, like, oh, it's our uncle. Like, it's the crazy drunk uncle who comes
really
over.
They're not proving him, because he's a really good villain. He
has
has the Dragonbinder.
I hope he does. I really hope he does.
Me too.
If they don't bring that into the show, I'm going to be really disappointed, because,
Me too.
Again, like, I don't just want to see a weapon that could kill Smaug in The Hobbit.
No, I'm uninterested in that.
No, I don't
We've
care.
seen it before.
In The Hobbit.
In The Hobbit. We've literally seen it. It happens, all right?
Oh, God.
So I guess what I'm saying is Euron has killed... If we're going to do a death count of this episode, Euron killed two main characters. He killed Nymeria and Obara Sand, and then strung them up on their ship.
Which I will say, I think started as fan service, because
we wanted it to happen. We asked for it to happen.
I don't feel good about it.
I don't either. I feel kind of sick a little bit. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, it was not fun to watch. Like, no. I was watching it and I was like, Joffrey I rewatched dying. And I will never
Ramsay I'll rewatch at any point.
Oh, so many times.
But it was hard. I'm like, first of all, you don't bring a whip into a naval battle. That's just dumb.
That was just a bad choice.
That's just dumb. But secondly, man, you didn't deserve to die that way. That was brutal. And now we have the only remaining are Tyene. Tyene is the only sand snake that's still alive.
Yeah.
Ilaria is alive, but they're all in Euron's clutches, in Cersei's clutches, basically.
Yeah, not a good place to be.
So it's going to be a really interesting episode. My one problem with the naval battle, besides how ridiculous it was and how much I couldn't see, I couldn't tell who was getting hurt.
That drove me crazy.
I was like, who am I watching? Who's getting killed? Was that Theon? No. Was that Theon? No. Was that? Okay, no. Everybody's still alive. Oh no, there's the Sand Snake. She just got killed.
Right.
My favorite part was when the silence was like, when Theon was in the water watching the silence sail away. It looked like a freaking animatronic from Five Nights at Freddy's. Like, had little eyes and like the ears. Oh my god, I could not take it seriously.
Oh my god.
It looked so funny.
It was like Five Nights at Freddy's 1 and 2, where you're not sure what you're looking at in the dark, but like you know it's there.
You see the eyes and you and you hear the sounds. Yeah, it's really. But I don't know. Other than that, this episode, if that was supposed to be the exciting part of this episode, I was really disappointed.
I think it was a springboard.
Yes.
I think this is a springboard episode into the fight to come. I don't think that this was meant to be like this amazing episode. I think that they kind of just needed to get to the next part.
And if that's the case, then don't waste my time. is what I say. I sort of felt like my time was wasted in this episode.
I think I'm a little more forgiving just because, I don't know.
They have the thing is, they only have they have given themselves a finite amount of episodes to tell this story in. There is a lot of story to tell. Don't be biding your time with gratuitous violence. I think they were. With the Sam scene with Jorah, I thought that was way too long.
That was
the fight scene was way too long. The timing of this season so far has been really disappointing.
They've been dragging things out. I will definitely agree to that.
The thing is, I appreciated when they drug out Dragonstone because I wanted to see that.
Yes.
I want to see her reaction to being in the place that she hasn't been since she was born.
People complained about that.
Well,
they didn't like that, which I loved. Personally, I loved.
I agree. I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, that was good.
But overall, I think that they do need to work on the timing of this season. I'm hoping that the next episode looks okay. It's called The Queen's Justice. It shows them attacking Casterly Rock. It shows Euron returning to King's Landing with his prizes or his presents. Shows a lot of
walking.
And I think it's probably going to end with Dany and Jon meeting and then cut to the credits.
I agree.
But focusing back on Stormborn.
Yes.
What do you think? Overall, do you think that Stormborn, who is the Stormborn?
Well, now that we've gotten the information that the prince who was promised could be not gender specific and could be prince or princess, I don't really know who Stormborn could be anymore because that's kind of shaking up the meaning of a lot of things for me, or showing at least that what we believe to be true about one character or about one, prophecy might not be true. Or might be changeable. Mm-hmm. So I like the idea that it might be Euron. It makes me want to see them face off really badly because they're both still Stormborn. So seeing them both face off, because that would be a battle of not ice and fire, but fire and water,
water basically, but also fire, because she was born in the storm but has dragons.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, I like the idea that it could be Euron because I like the idea that the season is shaking up a lot of what we previously thought was true about the show.
And I want them to continue to do that. Keep shaking it up. Keep making me feel like this is new. Yeah. That I don't know what's going to happen because I've been able to sort of tell what's going to happen on a not a global scale, granted, but certain day-to-day aspects. It's not hard to see. So, overall, Carly, do you have anything else to say about Stormborn as an episode?
Not much. It was one of those episodes where I really liked it when I was watching it, but it was a little forgettable overall. Again, I liked it. I didn't really have a problem with it, but it wasn't like a standout episode.
It wasn't right home to your mother about.
No, definitely not. It wasn't. I'm not going to send a raven to anybody about it.
I would agree. So what would your beard rating be for Stormborn?
Mine is Jorah because it's getting there. It's not
it's fair
right now. It's okay, you got some ways to go. But you're going to get there.
But I see the light at the end of the tunnel, basically.
I see the slightly ginger light at the end of the tunnel.
For me, I'm not as nice. This episode was really hard for me. Because of that, I'm going to give it a Littlefinger. It just didn't do anything for me.
All right.
Yeah.
I accept it.
So, yeah, basically, we'll be here next week for another episode. It will be on The Queen's Justice, which is Season 7, Episode 3. I'm looking forward to it. As I always say,
cautiously excited.
Cautious excitement, exactly.
Yes.
Thank you all so much for tuning in this week to You Got. My name is Sophia Matthias. Find me on Twitter at Commander Tully. Carly.
My name, as you said, is Carly.
I did. Just in case you don't know.
I sometimes don't. It depends on the day. I am on Twitter at chillin555, which is at CHILLYN 555. Again, can't explain it. It just is that way. I'm also on medium.com. I am hi, yes, hello on Medium, and I'm way cooler there than I am in real life.
That's not true. I disagree.
I hear your lies.
I disagree wholeheartedly. Well, like I said, we so much appreciate you listening to us talk about Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire.
Thank you so much.
We will be back next week, but until then,
the night is dark,
but full of Davos.
Yay!
Let's go.